She pulled a terrified boy from the streets, hiding him from men in black suits who hunted him like prey. What she didn't know, the child clinging to her was the son of a billionaire mafia boss. And now, both their lives would never be the same. The fog rolled thick through San Francisco's Chinatown that Tuesday night, turning the streetlights into blurred halos of yellow. Aiko Carter pulled her jacket tighter as she walked past the shuttered art supply store on Grand Avenue, her messenger bag heavy with student sketchbooks she'd promised to grade by morning. Teaching night classes to adult learners didn't pay much, but Aiko loved watching her students discover they could create something beautiful. Tonight, Mrs. Chun had finally painted a cherry blossom branch without obsessing over perfection. Small victories. Aiko was thinking about whether to grab takeout or just collapse into bed when she heard it. The slap of running feet on wet pavement, coming fast. Too fast. A small body crashed into her legs with enough force to nearly knock her down. Aiko stumbled backward, her bag hitting the sidewalk, sketchbooks spilling across the damp concrete. She started then stopped. The child gripping her leg couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 years old. Japanese, maybe, with messy black hair plastered to his forehead and eyes that held a terror no child should know. His expensive-looking school uniform was torn at the sleeve, and his knuckles were scraped raw. "Please," he gasped, his voice breaking. "Please don't let them take me." "Sweetie, what?" "There." 2 men in black suits materialized from the fog like predators emerging from smoke. They weren't running, they were hunting, moving with the calculated precision of people who knew exactly what they were doing. The taller one had a scar cutting through his left eyebrow. The shorter one spoke rapidly into a phone pressed to his ear. Aiko's teaching instincts vanished, replaced by something more primal. She'd grown up in Oakland, in a neighborhood where you learned to read danger in a heartbeat. These men radiated it. The boy's fingers dug into her jacket. "Please." Aiko made her decision in half a second. "Stay close," she whispered, grabbing his hand. She left her bag where it fell. Who cared about sketchbooks? And pulled the boy sideways into the narrow alley between the art store and a dim sum restaurant. "Stop." The scarred man's voice cut through the fog, accented but clear. "The boy is..." Aiko didn't wait to hear the rest. She knew these alleys from years of walking this route. 3 steps in, she yanked the boy right through a gap in a chain-link fence that led to a loading dock. The metal scraped her shoulder, but she ignored it, dragging the child behind stacked pallets that smelled of fish and cardboard. "Stay quiet," she breathed into his ear. "Don't move." The boy nodded against her shoulder, his whole body trembling. Heavy footsteps entered the alley. Leather shoes on concrete. 1 set, then 2. "He came this way," Scarface said in Japanese. Aiko's heart jumped. She'd studied Japanese in college, enough to understand basic conversation. The woman too. "Boss won't like this." "She's nobody," the shorter man replied, also in Japanese. "Civilian interference. We'll handle her." "Handle her." The words hung in the air like a threat. The boy's hand found hers in the darkness, small and cold. Aiko squeezed back, trying to transmit courage she didn't feel. The footsteps came closer. Closer. Then stopped. "Check the loading dock," Scarface ordered. Aiko's mind raced. If they came around the pallets, it was over. She couldn't fight 2 grown men. But maybe she could outrun them. Her eyes adjusted to the darkness, tracing a path. Over the low wall ahead, through the restaurant's back courtyard, out to Jackson Street where there would be people, cameras, witnesses. A phone rang, sharp and shrill. The shorter man answered in Japanese. "Yes? Yes, sir. We're pursuing now." "Understood." Silence. "Boss says pull back," the man said, his voice tight with frustration. "Too many civilians in the area. We've been spotted on security cameras. Regroup at the primary location." "But the boy." "Is orders. Move." The footsteps retreated. Aiko counted to 60, then 90, her heart hammering so hard she was sure it would give them away. But the alley remained empty except for fog and the distant wail of a car alarm. "Are they gone?" the boy whispered in English, his accent American despite his Japanese features. I think so. Aiko's legs felt weak. But we can't stay here. Do you have parents? Someone I can call? The boy's face crumpled, and for a moment Aiko thought he might cry. Instead, he straightened, trying for bravery that broke her heart. I can't go home, he said quietly. They'll find me there. They find me everywhere. Who are they? The boy looked at her with eyes far too old for his face. Bad people. People who want to hurt me. Aiko crouched down to his level, her teacher instincts kicking back in. Sweetheart, I need to call the police. If someone is trying to hurt you.
No.
His panic was immediate and real. No police.
Please.
They have people in the police. I heard Uncle Sora say so. Please, I just need somewhere to hide until. He trailed off, as if he didn't know how that sentence ended. Aiko should have called 911 right then. She should have flagged down a patrol car, handed this boy over to proper authorities, gone home to her tiny apartment, and pretended this night never happened. Instead, she heard herself say, Okay, no police. But you have to tell me your name. The boy hesitated, then whispered, Run.
Aiko repeated, I'm Aiko.
And I'm going to help you, okay? But you have to trust me. Ren nodded, and Aiko realized with a sinking feeling that she'd just made a promise she had no idea how to keep. She stood, peering over the pallets. The alley was empty, fog swirling through like restless ghosts.
Come on.
We need to get off the streets. Hand in hand, teacher and terrified boy slipped back into the San Francisco night, unaware that they'd just set in motion a chain of events that would reach from the city's underworld to the highest echelons of international power. Behind them, in the shadows of Grant Avenue, a black SUV's headlights flickered on. The hunt had only just begun. The sunset inn looked exactly like the kind of place that didn't ask questions. Peeling paint, a flickering neon sign missing the S, and a night clerk who barely glanced up from his phone when Aiko pushed through the door with Ron at her side. One room, Aiko said, sliding 2 20s across the scarred counter. Just for tonight. The clerk, a man in his 60s with tired eyes, finally looked at them. His gaze lingered on Ren's torn uniform, the boy's pale face, then shifted to Aiko with an expression she couldn't quite read. Kid okay? He asked. Family emergency, Aiko said quickly. His mom asked me to pick him up from school. We're heading out first thing in the morning. It was a terrible lie, full of holes. But the clerk just shrugged and handed her a key attached to a plastic tag marked 23 foot. Ice machines broken. Checkouts at 11-inch. The room smelled like old cigarettes and industrial cleaner. A double bed sagged in the center, facing a television that had probably been old in 2005. But the lock worked, and there was a deadbolt. Aiko threw both, then dragged the single chair under the doorknob for good measure. Only then did she let herself breathe. Ren stood in the middle of the room, looking lost. Now that they were under proper light, Aiko could see how exhausted he was. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his hands hadn't stopped shaking. When did you last eat? She asked gently. Ren thought about it. Yesterday. Lunch, maybe. Aiko's heart clenched. Okay, stay here. Lock the door behind me. I'm going to find a vending machine. Don't leave, the panic in his voice was sharp. 5 minutes, Aiko promised. I'll knock 3 times, like this, she demonstrated on the dresser. You don't open for anyone else. Deal?
Ren nodded reluctantly.
The vending machine near the lobby coughed up stale cookies, chips, and 2 bottles of water. Aiko grabbed everything her remaining cash could buy, her mind racing the entire time.
She should call someone.
Her sister Maya? No, Maya was in Reno with her husband, too far to help. Her coworker Josh? He'd insist on calling authorities. And Ren had been so certain about police corruption. Was she really going to trust the word of a terrified 8-year-old over every instinct screaming to involve proper authorities? Aiko glanced toward the motel's front window. The street outside was empty except for a few parked cars and the ever-present fog. Normal. Quiet. So, why did the hair on the back of her neck stand up? She hurried back to room 23, knocked 3 times. The door opened immediately. Ren had been standing right behind it. They sat on the bed together, and Ren devoured the cookies like he was starving. Aiko sipped water and tried to figure out what to do with a child who was either in genuine danger or had an incredibly vivid imagination. "Run," she said softly. "I need you to tell me what's really going on. Why are those men chasing you?" Ren's hand went to his chest, clutching something under his shirt. He hesitated, then slowly pulled out a pendant on a thin chain. Even in the motel's dim light, Aiko could see it was expensive, heavy metal, possibly platinum, with an intricate dragon design etched into its surface. "My father gave this to me," Ren whispered. "He said it would keep me safe. But it didn't." "Where is your father?" "I don't know," Ren's voice cracked. "He's always traveling. For business. He doesn't tell me where." "And your mother?"
She died.
"When I was 4". Aiko felt her throat tighten. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart." They sat in silence for a moment. Outside, a car engine rumbled past. Then another. Aiko stood and carefully peered through a gap in the curtain. Her blood went cold. A black SUV was circling the motel parking lot. Slowly, deliberately. Its windows were tinted so dark she couldn't see inside, but she didn't need to. She recognized the hunting pattern. "Run," she said, keeping her voice calm even as fear crawled up her spine. "Get your shoes on."
Now.
"What's wrong?" "They found us." Ren's face went white. He clutched the dragon pendant so hard his knuckles turned bone pale. "That's impossible. How could they?" The SUV completed another loop, then stopped. Directly in front of their room. Aiko's mind raced. The window was sealed shut with decades of paint. The door was the only exit, and it faced the parking lot where the SUV sat idling, waiting. They were trapped. "Aiko." Ren's voice was small, terrified. "What do we do?" Aiko looked at this boy, this child who'd crashed into her life an hour ago and somehow become her responsibility. She thought about her quiet life teaching art, her tiny apartment, her simple routines. All of it felt like another world now. "We survive," she said, surprising herself with the steel in her voice. "Whatever it takes, Ren. We survive." Outside, a car door opened. Aiko's hands moved on instinct. She grabbed the cheap motel lamp, yanked the plug from the wall, and positioned herself behind the door with a ceramic base raised like a weapon. Not much, but better than nothing. "Bathroom," she hissed at Ren. "Lock yourself in. Don't come out until I say." "But..." "Go." Ren scrambled into the tiny bathroom just as heavy footsteps approached outside. Aiko's heart hammered against her ribs. She tightened her grip on the lamp, muscles coiled. The footsteps stopped at their door. A knock. 3 sharp raps. Then silence.
No voices.
No demands to open up. Aiko waited, barely breathing. Through the thin door, she heard the footsteps retreat. Move to the next room. Knock again. They were checking every room. But something felt wrong. If these were the same men from the alley, why knock? Why not just break down the door? They hadn't seemed concerned about subtlety before. Aiko crept to the window and risked another glance through the curtain. Her breath caught. The black SUV was still there, but now a second vehicle had arrived, a silver sedan parked at the far end of the lot. And the man knocking on doors wasn't wearing a black suit. He was dressed in a maintenance uniform, holding a toolbox. A legitimate motel employee doing late-night repairs? Or someone more dangerous in disguise? The man moved to room 24, next to theirs.
Knocked.
Waited. Moved on. Aiko's mind spun. They needed to leave, but walking out now meant crossing an open parking lot in full view of both vehicles. And she still couldn't be sure if the maintenance man was a real threat or just paranoia playing tricks on her exhausted mind. "Aiko." Ren's whisper came from the bathroom doorway. "Can I come out?" "Yeah, but stay quiet." Ren emerged, still clutching the pendant. As he moved past the nightstand, the chain caught on the lamp Aiko had replaced, and the pendant flew from his fingers, clattering across the stained carpet.
No.
Ren dropped to his knees, frantically searching. Aiko knelt beside him, helping. Her fingers found the pendant near the bed frame, and she picked it up, finally getting a clear look at it in her hand. The dragon design wasn't just decorative, it was a specific symbol. Curved body, 5 claws, surrounded by stylized waves. Aiko's breath caught as recognition slammed into her. "I know this," she whispered. Ren looked up, startled. "What?" "This symbol. I've seen it before." Aiko's mind raced back 3 years to a cultural exhibit she'd helped curate at the Asian Art Museum. A visiting collection from Japan featuring historical artifacts of powerful merchant families. And there, in the catalog's footnotes, a small entry about controversial symbols linked to organized crime syndicates. The Kurogane clan. The Black Steel Dragon. "Run," Aiko said slowly. "Where exactly did your father get this?" The boy's face closed off immediately. "I can't tell you." "Run, this symbol, it's associated with a very dangerous organization. The Kurogane clan. They're not just criminals, she struggled for words an 8-year-old would understand. They're like a powerful family that operates in both Japan and America. Very powerful. Very dangerous." Ren's eyes went wide with genuine fear. He snatched the pendant back and shoved it under his shirt. "Don't say that name. You can't say that name." "Why not?" "Because," Ren's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Because if you know about them, if you say their name, they'll think you're involved. And then they'll come after you too." The pieces clicked together in Aiko's mind with sickening clarity. The expensive uniform. The trained men in suits. The pendant worth more than she made in 6 months. The way Ren had said his father was always traveling for business. "Run," she said carefully. "What does your father do?" "For work." Ren looked at the floor. "I'm not supposed to talk about it." "Sweetheart, I can't help you if I don't know what we're running from." "You're already helping me," Ren's voice cracked. "More than anyone else has. But if I tell you everything, if you know too much, they won't just chase you away. They'll—" He made a small, cutting gesture across his throat. Aiko felt cold despite the stuffy motel room. She'd rescued a boy being chased by street thugs, or so she'd thought. But this was something bigger. Darker. The kind of darkness that swallowed people whole and left no trace. Outside, the maintenance man had finished his rounds and was walking back toward the office. The black SUV's engine revved once, then went quiet. Aiko made a decision. "Okay, you don't have to tell me everything. But we can't stay here. They're watching this place. Where can we go?" "Good question." "Aiko's apartment?" "No, if they'd tracked Ren to a random motel, they could track him anywhere in the city. They needed distance. Space. Somewhere off the grid." Her mind landed on Josh, her coworker. He'd mentioned his family had a cabin near Tahoe, currently empty for the winter. Remote. No security cameras. No paper trail if she borrowed his spare key from his desk. It was crazy. It was probably illegal. But looking at Ren's terrified face, Aiko knew she was already too deep to turn back. "Pack up," she said. "We're leaving the city." They waited until 4 a.m., when the fog was thickest and the black SUV had finally pulled away. Aiko left exact cash for the room on the nightstand. She wasn't a thief, even in crisis, and led Ren out through a side exit near the ice machine. The city felt different in pre-dawn darkness. Empty buses drifted past like ghosts. Street sweepers hummed in the distance. Aiko kept Ren close as they walked 6 blocks to where she'd parked her ancient Honda Civic the night before, back when her biggest worry was grading sketchbooks. That life felt like years ago now. They were half a block from the car when Ren suddenly grabbed her arm. "Wait, what?" "That man." Ren pointed to a figure standing near a corner bodega, seemingly absorbed in his phone. He was outside the motel. Different clothes, but same person. Aiko studied the man. Casual jacket, jeans, completely unremarkable. But Ren was right. Something about his posture, the way he held himself, screamed surveillance. "How many are there?" Aiko whispered. "I don't know. But if Uncle Sora wants me dead, he won't stop with just a few men." Uncle Sora. This was the first time Ren had named someone specific. Aiko filed that information away as they circled the block, approaching her car from the opposite direction. The Honda started with its usual reluctant cough. Aiko pulled into traffic, watching her mirrors obsessively. No one followed. Not yet. Where are we going? Rin asked, slumped in the passenger seat. Somewhere safe. But first, we need supplies. Aiko pulled into a 24-hour gas station. Stay in the car. Lock the doors. I'll be 5 minutes. She grabbed bottled water, protein bars, a disposable phone, and after a moment's hesitation, a cheap first aid kit. The cashier rang her up without interest, and Aiko hurried back to find Rin exactly where she'd left him, eyes scanning every shadow. They merged onto Highway 80 heading northeast just as the sky began lightening from black to deep purple. Sacramento first, then Tahoe. 3 hours of driving, maybe 4 with traffic. Aiko was just starting to relax when Rin sat bolt upright. That car. Which one?
Silver sedan.
3 cars back. It was in the motel parking lot. Aiko's hands tightened on the wheel. She changed lanes. The sedan changed lanes. She accelerated. The sedan matched her speed, maintaining perfect distance. Hold on, Aiko muttered, taking a sudden exit toward a residential area. The sedan followed. Her mind raced. She couldn't outrun them. Her Honda was 15 years old and protested loudly above 60 miles per hour. She couldn't outdrive them. She was an art teacher, not an action hero. But she knew this area. She'd had a friend who lived here during college. Aiko made a series of quick turns, weaving through quiet streets where sprinklers were just coming on. The sedan stayed with them, closer now, no longer bothering with subtlety. Through the rear-view mirror, she could see 2 figures in the front seats. Then a second vehicle appeared ahead of them, a dark van blocking the intersection. It's a trap, Rin breathed. Aiko's pulse hammered in her ears.
Behind them, the sedan.
Ahead, the van. To the right, houses.
To the left.
A narrow alley between 2 apartment buildings. Barely wide enough for a car. Aiko yanked the wheel left. The Honda scraped against brick on both sides with a hideous screech of metal, but they squeezed through. Behind them, the sedan tried to follow but was too wide. It wedged itself between the buildings with a crunch of fiberglass. Yes.
Hein shouted.
But Aiko's relief died as they emerged onto the next street. The van had circled around. It was coming straight at them, accelerating hard. Get down, Aiko screamed. She swerved right, jumped a curb, and sent the Honda bouncing across someone's front lawn. Sprinklers soaked the windshield. The van roared past, missing them by inches, then slammed on its brakes. Aiko didn't wait. She gunned the engine, lawn ornaments exploding under her tires, and crashed back onto the street through a hedge. The Honda's suspension groaned, but held. She made 3 more random turns, then another, her breath coming in gasps. 5 minutes later, she pulled behind an abandoned warehouse, killed the engine, and listened. Silence. Just their ragged breathing and the tick of the cooling engine. Did we lose them?
Hein whispered.
I think so. Aiko's hands were shaking so badly she had to grip the steering wheel to steady them. Run, I need you to tell me the truth.
Right now.
Who are these people? What did you see that made them want you dead? Rin looked at her with tears streaming down his face. I saw Uncle Sora try to kill my father. And now he wants to make sure I never tell anyone. Before Aiko could respond, her phone rang. Unknown number. She stared at it, her blood turning to ice. Don't answer it, Rin whispered. But Aiko's finger was already moving toward the screen. Aiko's thumb hovered over the answer button. Every instinct screamed not to pick up. Unknown numbers at dawn never brought good news. But whoever was calling already knew her phone number. Already knew where to find her. Maybe, just maybe, answering would give her information she desperately needed. She swiped to accept and put it on speaker. Hello. Silence. Then a voice that made the air in the car feel 10 degrees colder. You have something that belongs to me. It wasn't a question. The man spoke English with a precise, educated accent that somehow made him sound more dangerous than any street thug. His voice was quiet, controlled, the voice of someone who never needed to shout because people listened the first time. Aiko's mouth went dry. I don't know what you're talking about. My son. 2 words that carried the weight of absolute certainty. You took my son. Run went rigid beside her, his face draining of all color. I didn't take anyone, Aiko said, fighting to keep her voice steady. I helped a scared child who was being chased by armed men. There's a difference. Is there? A pause. My name is Kurogane Ruji, and the boy with you is Kurogane Run. My heir. My only child. Kurogane. The name from the dragon crest. The Black Steel Dragon Clan. If he's your son, Aiko said slowly, why is he running from your men? My men are trying to bring him home safely. You are preventing that. Ruji's voice remained perfectly calm, but Aiko heard the steel beneath it. I don't know what story Ren has told you, Miss Carter. Yes, I know your name, but children often misunderstand adult situations. Whatever you think is happening, you are wrong. Then why won't he come home? Aiko challenged. Why is he terrified? For the first time, Ruji hesitated. That is complicated. Family business you cannot possibly understand. But make no mistake, every moment you keep my son from me, you are in increasing danger. Not from me. From others who would use him to hurt me. Uncle Sora, Ren whispered, so quietly Aiko almost didn't hear. Ruji went silent. When he spoke again, his voice had changed, still controlled, but now with an undercurrent of something darker. What did you say? Ren grabbed the phone from Aiko's hand, his small voice shaking but determined. Father, it's me. I'm sorry I ran, but Uncle Sora tried to kill you. I saw him. In the Los Angeles office. He had a gun, and… Ren, Ruji's voice cracked, just barely. Where are you? I can't tell you. Uncle Sora has people everywhere.
He said so.
He said even your closest men might be working for him. Silence stretched between father and son, heavy with things Aiko couldn't fully understand. I need you to listen to me very carefully, Ruji said finally.
Sora is.
Yes, there has been conflict, but I am handling it. You are not safe out there with a stranger. Come home. Let me protect you. How do I know you're really you? Ren's voice broke. How do I know Uncle Sora didn't already? Your mother's favorite flower was white chrysanthemums, Ruji said softly. You were 4 when she died, and you tried to plant an entire garden of them in her memory. But you planted them upside down, roots in the air, and cried when I had to tell you they wouldn't grow that way. Ren's face crumpled. Father. Come home, Ren. Please. Aiko watched the boy struggle, torn between terror and desperate hope. She gently took the phone back. Mr. Kurogane, I want to believe you. But your son witnessed something that traumatized him enough to run away and trust a complete stranger over his own family. That tells me something is very wrong in your world. My world is not your concern. It is now, Aiko shot back. Because your son is with me, and I'm not handing him over to anyone until I know he'll be safe. Not from you. Not from Sora. Not from anyone. She heard Ruji take a slow breath. When he spoke again, his voice carried a weight that made her skin prickle. Miss Carter, you have no idea what you've walked into. The Kurogane family has protected its interests across 2 continents for 3 generations. We have resources you cannot imagine. Reach you cannot escape. If I wanted to take my son from you by force, you would already be dead. Then why haven't you? Another pause. Because my son is choosing to stay with you.
And that concerns me.
It suggests his fear is genuine. Which means someone in my organization has betrayed me so thoroughly that my own child doesn't trust me to protect him. The admission hung in the air, raw and honest. I need time, Ruji said. Time to root out the betrayal. Time to make my home safe for Ren again. Can you keep him alive for 48 hours? Aiko looked at Ren, who nodded slowly. Yes, she said. But Mr. Kurogane? If you're lying to me, if you're the threat he's running from, I will make sure the world knows everything. I'll go to the FBI, the media, everyone. Ruji laughed, a short, sharp sound without humor. Brave words. Foolish but brave. Keep my son safe, Miss Carter. I will be in touch. The line went dead. They didn't speak for the first 30 miles. Aiko drove north on Highway 80, putting distance between them and San Francisco, while her mind spun through the impossible conversation she'd just had. A billionaire crime boss knew her name, knew her phone number, could probably find her anywhere in the country. And she'd just promised to keep his son away from him for 2 days. You can still let me go, Ren said quietly, breaking the silence. Just drop me anywhere. You've done enough. Not a chance, Aiko surprised herself with how much she meant it. I made a promise to keep you safe. I don't break promises. Even to criminals? Even to scared little boys. Ren looked out the window at the passing landscape, suburbs giving way to rolling hills, the last of the fog burning off in early morning sun. My father isn't a criminal. Not exactly. He runs a mafia organization. He runs businesses. Shipping companies. Restaurants. Real estate. Ren's voice took on a rehearsed quality, as if repeating something he'd been told many times. Some of those businesses operate in gray areas. But father says every powerful family has secrets. It's how you protect what matters. And what matters to your father? Me, Ren's voice cracked. At least I thought so. Until 3 days ago. Aiko glanced at him. Tell me what happened. All of it. Ren was quiet for a long moment, fingers twisting the dragon pendant's chain. Finally, he began. Father was in Los Angeles for meetings. Important ones. He brought me because Ren's voice dropped. Because he always brings me. Says, I need to learn the business. That one day it'll all be mine. Okay. We were staying in a private office building downtown. Father owns the whole building. Very secure. Only family and trusted associates allowed. Ren swallowed hard. I was supposed to be doing homework in the conference room, but I got bored and went looking for the vending machines. Aiko could picture it, a lonely kid in an adult world, seeking the simple comfort of a candy bar. The building has these old ventilation ducts, big ones from when it was built in the 1940s. I found an access panel in the hallway and thought it would be fun to explore. Stupid, I know. But I climbed in. Kids do stupid things, Aiko said gently. It's part of being a kid. The ducts led to Father's private office. I could see down through a vent in the ceiling. And that's when Uncle Sora arrived. Ren's breathing quickened. Aiko reached over and squeezed his shoulder. Uncle Sora isn't really my uncle. He's Father's business partner. Half-brother, actually. Same father, different mothers. Father's mother was Japanese nobility. Sora's was. Ren hesitated. Father doesn't talk about her. But Sora always seemed angry about something. Like he was owed something he never got. What happened in the office? They were arguing. About money. About respect. About who really built the Kurogane Empire. Ren's voice shook. Sora said Father had gotten soft. Said marrying an American woman, my mother, had made him weak. Said the old ways were better. Stronger. Aiko felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. Then Sora said he'd given Father enough chances to step aside voluntarily. That it was time for new leadership. And he pulled out a gun. Oh, Ren. Father just stood there. He wasn't afraid. He told Sora that killing him wouldn't give Sora what he wanted. That the family would never accept a leader who took power through assassination. That Sora would spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder. What did Sora say? He said he'd already thought of that. That Father's death would look like an accident. And that Ren's voice broke completely. That I would be taken care of too. Made to look like I died in the same accident. Then Sora would be the last surviving Kurogane. The Empire would be his by default. Aiko's hands tightened on the wheel. But your father survived. Someone interrupted them. One of Father's men came in with urgent news about a shipment. Sora put the gun away like nothing happened. Smiled. Acted normal. But I saw his eyes when he left. He looked right up at the vent where I was hiding. I don't know if he saw me. But later that night, when Father was in meetings, 2 of Sora's men came to my room. The ones from the alley.
They nodded.
They said father wanted to see me immediately, but I'd heard them talking in the hallway before they knocked. One of them said, "Make it quick and clean. Boss wants no traces," so I ran. Climbed out my window, down the fire escape, into the city. And you've been running ever since. For 3 days. Sleeping in parks. Hiding in stores. Until last night when I ran into you, Rin looked at her with exhausted, grateful eyes. "You're the first person who believed me." Aiko's heart ached. What kind of world did this child live in where armed men hunted him, and he couldn't trust anyone? "Your father said he needs 48 hours to make things safe," Aiko said. "Do you believe he'll do it?" Ren stared out the window. "I don't know, but I know Uncle Sora won't stop. He's patient, dangerous, and he's very, very good at making problems disappear." They reached Lake Tahoe just after noon, the winter sun glinting off snow-dusted peaks. Aiko had texted Josh from a rest stop. "Family emergency. Borrowing cabin keys from your desk. We'll explain later," and prayed he wouldn't check his messages until after the weekend. The cabin sat on the north shore, tucked among towering pines at the end of a winding dirt road. Small, rustic, and blissfully isolated. No neighbors for half a mile in either direction. The kind of place where you came to disappear.
Perfect.
Wow. Ren breathed as they pulled up. "It's like a postcard." Aiko couldn't help but smile. For a kid who'd spent the last 3 days running for his life, Ren could still find wonder in simple beauty. Maybe there was hope for him yet. Inside, the cabin smelled like pine and old wood smoke. The furniture was mismatched but comfortable, a worn couch facing a stone fireplace, a small kitchen with ancient appliances, 2 bedrooms barely bigger than closets. But it had running water, electricity, and most importantly, it was off any grid the Kuragain family might be watching. "First things first," Aiko said, dropping their meager supplies on the counter. "You need real food and sleep. When did you last have either?" "I told you. Yesterday. Or maybe the day before." Rin swayed slightly on his feet, exhaustion finally catching up with adrenaline. Aiko found pasta in the cupboard, Jared sauce in the pantry. Nothing fancy, but it would do. While the water boiled, she watched Rin explore the cabin with careful, almost reverent touches, running his fingers along book spines, examining photographs of Josh's family skiing and hiking, staring at a jigsaw puzzle half completed on the coffee table. "Do you have family photos?" Aiko asked. "At home."
They nodded.
"Father keeps one picture of mother in his office. Just one. He says looking at more hurts too much." He paused. "I look like her. Everyone says so. Sometimes I think that hurts him too." "I'm sure he treasures that," Aiko said softly. "You remind him of someone he loved. Or someone he lost." The words carried a weight no 8-year-old should understand. They ate pasta at the small kitchen table, and Aiko watched Rin practically inhale 3 helpings. Afterward, she insisted he shower. His expensive uniform was filthy and torn. She found an old sweatshirt and sweatpants of Josh's that swallowed Ren's small frame, but were clean and warm. "Better?" she asked. Ren nodded, looking younger without the armor of his school clothes. Just a kid in oversized pajamas. "Sleep now. I'll keep watch." "You need sleep too." "I'll rest later." "Go on." But Ren hesitated at the bedroom door. "Aiko, why are you doing this? You don't know me. You could get killed helping me."
Aiko thought about that.
Why was she doing this? She'd had a dozen chances to walk away, to call authorities, to make this someone else's problem. But every time she looked at Rin, she saw the terrified boy who'd crashed into her on a foggy street and whispered, "Please don't let them take me." "Because everyone deserves someone in their corner," she said finally. "And right now, I'm in yours." Ren's eyes filled with tears he refused to let fall. "Thank you." After he disappeared into the bedroom, Aiko collapsed on the couch and let herself shake. The terror she'd been suppressing for hours came flooding back. The chase, the armed men, the conversation with a crime boss who could probably make her disappear with a phone call. What was she doing? She was an art teacher. Her biggest crisis before yesterday was budget cuts threatening her program. Now she was harboring the heir to a criminal empire, while his uncle tried to assassinate them both. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Aiko stared at it, then answered. Miss Carter, not Ruji this time. A woman's voice, crisp and professional. Mr. Kurigane wants you to know that Sora is in Los Angeles with at least 12 men. They've been tracking you through traffic cameras, but lost your signal outside Sacramento. They believe you're heading north or east. Who are you? Someone trying to keep that boy alive. Check your phone. I'm sending you a number. If you see anything suspicious, any car that doesn't belong, any person watching the area, you call immediately. Do you understand? Yes, but... The line went dead. A moment later, a text arrived. Just a phone number, nothing else. Aiko walked to the window and looked out at the peaceful, snow-touched landscape. The lake shimmered in the distance. Birds called from the pines. Everything looked safe. But safe was an illusion now. She grabbed the fireplace poker. Poor weapon, but better than nothing, and settled onto the couch where she could see both the front door and the driveway. Outside, the first real snow of the season began to fall. Fat, lazy flakes that would make the dirt road nearly impassable by morning. Trapped, Aiko thought. But maybe that went both ways. She held the poker across her lap and watched the snow erase their tire tracks, one flake at a time. The sound of engines woke Aiko at dawn. She jerked upright on the couch, momentarily disoriented. The fireplace poker clattered to the floor. Outside the windows, the world was white. 6 inches of fresh snow had fallen overnight, transforming the landscape into something from a winter fairy tale. Except fairy tales didn't include the convoy of black SUVs rolling up the driveway.
And
Aiko ran to the bedroom and shook him awake. Get up.
now.
They found us. Ren's eyes snapped open, instantly alert. No grogginess, no confusion, just the practiced response of a child who'd learned to wake up ready to run. Through the window, Aiko counted 4 vehicles forming a semicircle around the cabin. Not the panic chase of Sora's men. This was organized, military precise. Doors opened in unison. Men emerged wearing tactical gear, not quite police, not quite military. Something in between. How many?
Rain whispered.
At least a dozen, Aiko's mind raced. The back door led into dense forest, but the snow would make running impossible. They'd leave tracks a child could follow. We're surrounded. Is it Father or Uncle Sora? I don't know. One man stepped forward from the lead vehicle, speaking into a radio. He was older than the others, with gray at his temples and the bearing of someone who'd commanded men his entire life. He gestured, and 2 teams of 3 split off, circling the cabin with practiced efficiency. Aiko grabbed her phone and dialed the number from last night's text. It rang once. They're here, she said when someone picked up. I don't know whose men. Mr. Kurigane's forces, the woman's voice replied calmly. Stay inside. Do not resist. He's coming to ensure his son's safety personally. Wait, But the line was already dead. A loudspeaker crackled to life outside. Miss Carter. Ren, the older man's voice was firm but not aggressive. Mr. Kurigane has asked me to bring you both to a secure location. We mean no harm. Please come out with your hands visible. It's a trap, Ren breathed. Uncle Sora could have turned Father's men. He said he would. Aiko pulled Ren away from the window. We don't have much choice. If we run, they'll catch us in minutes. If we hide, they'll just wait us out. We're going to have to trust. The crack of a rifle shot shattered the morning silence. One of the tactical team members near the tree line dropped, clutching his shoulder. Blood sprayed across pristine snow. Sniper, someone shouted. Cover. Chaos erupted. The men around the cabin scattered, taking defensive positions behind vehicles. More shots rang out 3, 4, 5, coming from the forest ridge above the cabin. Another man went down. Then another. It's Sora, Ren said, his voice eerily calm. He followed Father's men here. Aiko watched in horror as the 2 forces engaged. Ruji's men returned fire toward the tree line while trying to maintain their perimeter around the cabin. But Sora's snipers had the high ground, and more figures were emerging from the woods, men in white winter camouflage, nearly invisible against the snow. The older commander barked orders into his radio, coordinating his men's defense. But he was fighting a losing battle. Sora had planned this perfectly: let Ruji's people do the tracking work, then ambush them at the endpoint. A bullet punched through the cabin's front window, showering glass across the living room. Down. Aiko threw herself over Ren, shielding him with her body. They crawled toward the kitchen, away from the windows. Outside, the firefight intensified. The sharp crack of rifle fire mixed with deeper booms. Someone had brought heavy weapons. An SUV's window exploded. A man screamed. "We have to run," Ren said. "While they're distracted. It's our only chance." "Run where?" "They're everywhere." "The lake. If we can reach the shore, there are boat docks, houses. Places to hide." It was insane. But staying here meant getting caught in the crossfire or captured by whoever won the battle outside. Aiko grabbed coats from the rack by the door. "Stay behind me. When I say run, you run. Don't look back. Don't stop. Understand?" Ren nodded, his small face set with determination. Aiko took a deep breath, gripped the back door handle, and prepared to sprint into a war zone. But before she could open it, the door burst inward. A man in tactical gear filled the doorway, weapon raised, one of Ruji's men, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. "Miss Carter," he gasped. "You need to come with me."
Now.
Mr. Kuragane's orders. His head snapped back as a bullet took him from behind. He collapsed across the threshold, dead before he hit the floor. Beyond him, Aiko saw more white camouflaged figures advancing through the smoke and chaos. Sora's men had broken through the perimeter. They were coming for Ren. And there was nowhere left to run. Aiko didn't remember much of what happened next. Strong hands yanking her backward. Ren screaming her name. The deafening roar of an explosion as something, grenade? Rocket, obliterated the front of the cabin in a ball of flame and smoke, being thrown into an SUV that was already moving before the door closed. Bullets pinging off armored plating like deadly rain. Then darkness, as someone pulled a hood over her head. When the hood came off, Aiko was no longer in the mountains. She sat in a leather chair in what could only be described as an office designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a desert landscape painted gold by sunset. The walls were decorated with Japanese art, traditional ink paintings, a pair of samurai swords crossed above a minimalist fireplace. Everything screamed wealth and power. And standing by the window, silhouetted against the dying light, was a man who could only be Kuragane Ruji. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe early 40s, though his eyes looked older. Tall for a Japanese man, with perfectly tailored suit that probably cost more than her car. His hair was touched with premature silver at the temples. He didn't turn when she stirred, just continued staring out at the Nevada wasteland. "Where's Ren?" Aiko's voice came out hoarse. Her throat hurt. Had she been screaming? "Safe. In the medical wing. He has a concussion and some bruising, but nothing serious." Ruji's voice was the same controlled tone from the phone, but underneath it now Aiko heard something new.
Exhaustion.
Maybe even fear. "You shielded him when the explosion hit. The doctors say you saved his life." Aiko tried to stand and immediately regretted it. Her head spun, and pain lanced through her ribs. A hand steadied her, a woman in a white medical coat who'd been standing quietly in the corner. 2 cracked ribs, mild concussion, various contusions, the doctor said. "You're lucky to be alive, Miss Carter." "I don't feel lucky." Aiko sank back into the chair. "What happened?" "At the cabin." For the first time, Ruji turned to face her. Up close, she could see the lines of stress around his eyes, the tightness in his jaw. This was a man operating on the edge of control. "My brother's men killed 3 of mine and wounded 5 others," he said flatly. "They were willing to blow up an entire building to get to Ren. To get to both of you." "Why me?" "Because you're a witness. You know too much. And Sora can't afford loose ends." Ruji moved closer, studying her with unsettling intensity. Or perhaps he thought you were working for me. That I'd hit and run with an operative. I'm not an operative. I'm a teacher.
Yes.
I know everything about you now, Miss Carter. Ruji's voice carried a hint of something. Respect? Art teacher. Oakland native. Student loans still being paid off. No criminal record. No connection to any organization, legitimate or otherwise. Which makes what you did even more remarkable. I helped a scared kid. Anyone would have. No, Ruji cut her off. Most people would have called police, or looked away, or handed him over to the first person who claimed authority. You risked your life for a stranger's child. Why? Aiko met his gaze. Because he asked me to. Because I saw his fear and believed it. Because, she stopped, surprised by the emotion in her own voice. Because nobody should face monsters alone. Silence stretched between them. Ruji's expression was unreadable. I think you orchestrated this, he said finally. The abduction. The chase. Leading my men into Sora's ambush. It's too convenient. Too perfect. What? Aiko surged to her feet despite the pain. Are you insane? Your brother's men have been trying to kill us for 2 days. I've been shot at, chased, nearly blown up. Exactly, Ruji said coldly. Convenient cover for an operative skilled enough to gain Ren's trust. Ask him, Aiko shouted. Ask your son what happened. Ask him who saved him. I intend to. Ruji moved toward the door. But first, Miss Carter, you'll remain here under guard until I'm satisfied you're telling the truth. If you're innocent, you'll be compensated and released. If you're not. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The door opened, and Aiko's heart stopped. Ren stood in the doorway, white bandage wrapped around his head, wearing clean clothes that actually fit. His eyes found Aiko and filled with tears. Aiko. He tried to run to her, but a guard held him back. Run, Ruji said quietly. Tell me the truth. Did this woman help you or hurt you? Ren looked between his father and Aiko, confusion and pain written across his young face. Father, she saved me. She saved me when nobody else would. She. Or did she take you? Keep you from coming home to me?
No.
Father, you don't understand. Then help me understand. Ruji's voice softened slightly. Tell me everything. From the beginning. And Ren. He knelt to his son's level. Tell me the truth. All of it. Even the parts that hurt. Ren looked at Aiko one more time, seeking permission or reassurance or something. She nodded, even though she had no idea what would happen next. It started in Los Angeles, Ren began, his voice small but steady. When I was hiding in the ventilation duct, and I saw Uncle Sora. Ren's voice shook as he recounted everything. The ventilation duct, the argument, Sora's gun pointed at his father's chest. Ruji listened without interruption, his face an unreadable mask. But Aiko saw his hands clench into fists when Ren described how Sora had planned to kill them both and make it look like an accident. And when the men came to my room that night, Ren continued, tears streaming down his face now. I heard them outside the door. One said, "The kid's seen too much. Boss wants it done tonight, so I ran." Why didn't you call me? Ruji's voice cracked, the first real emotion breaking through his controlled exterior. Run. Why didn't you trust me to protect you? Because Uncle Sora said he had people inside your organization. He said some of your closest men were already working for him. How was I supposed to know who to trust? Ren's voice rose to a wail. I was scared, Father. I didn't know if the men you sent were really from you or from him. The words hit Ruji like a physical blow. He closed his eyes, and for a moment he looked far older than his years. So you ran into the streets of San Francisco, he said quietly. Alone. Terrified. For 3 days. Until I found Aiko, Ren pulled free from the guard and ran to her, wrapping his arms around her waist. She believed me when nobody else would. She kept me safe even when your men chased us. Even when Uncle Sora tried to kill us. She's not bad, Father. She's the only good person in any of this. Aiko held the trembling boy, her own eyes burning with unshed tears. Over Ren's head, she met Ruji's gaze. I have proof, she said suddenly remembering. My phone. Do you have my phone? Ruji gestured. A guard produced her battered cell phone from an evidence bag. When we were on the road to Tahoe, after you called, Aiko explained, her fingers fumbling with the cracked screen. I recorded Ren telling me about the assassination attempt. I don't know what I thought. Maybe that I'd need evidence if something happened to us. Here. She pulled up the voice memo and pressed play. Ren's voice filled the room, tinny but clear through the phone's speaker. Uncle Sora pulled out a gun. He told Father that it was time for new leadership. That Father had gotten soft. That marrying an American woman had made him weak. Ruji listened to the entire recording, 3 minutes of his son recounting the betrayal in devastating detail. When it ended, he stood motionless for a long moment. Then he turned and drove his fist into the wall. The drywall cracked. His knuckles came away bloody. Sir, one of the guards started. Leave us, Ruji commanded. All of you.
Now.
The guards and the doctor filed out silently. The door closed with a soft click, leaving just Ruji, Aiko, and Ren in the vast office. Ruji walked to the window, his shoulders rigid. Sora is my half-brother. Same father, different mothers. I tried to include him, to give him a place in the organization despite our fathers while naming only me as heir. I thought blood meant something. That family loyalty. He laughed bitterly. I was a fool. You weren't a fool for trusting family, Aiko said quietly. You were human. Ruji turned, and Aiko saw something in his eyes she hadn't expected. Genuine gratitude. Miss Carter, I owe you an apology. And a debt I can never fully repay. You protected my son when I failed to. You risked everything for a child you didn't know. He moved closer, and Aiko was struck by the intensity of his focus.
Why?
Really, why? Aiko looked down at Ren, still clinging to her. Because I'm a teacher. And teachers protect their students. All of them. Even the ones who aren't technically theirs. Something shifted in Ruji's expression. A crack in the armor, a glimpse of the man beneath the Mafia boss. Run, he said gently. Come here, son. Ren hesitated, then slowly walked to his father. Ruji knelt and pulled him into an embrace so fierce, so desperate, that Aiko had to look away. I'm sorry, Ruji whispered into his son's hair. I'm sorry you were afraid. Sorry you didn't feel safe in our own home. Sorry I didn't see Sora's ambition festering into something so dark. He pulled back, holding Ren's face between his hands. But I promise you, I swear on your mother's memory, Sora will never threaten you again. What are you going to do? Ren asked. Ruji's expression hardened. What I should have done years ago. End this, he stood and moved to his desk, pressing an intercom button. Tanaka. Assemble the strike team. Full tactical gear. I want surveillance on Sora's Los Angeles location within the hour. Yes, sir. A voice crackled back. Ruji turned to Aiko. Miss Carter, I'm asking you to stay here at the estate. Just until this is over. Ren trusts you, and right now, you may be the only person besides me he feels safe with. How long? 24 hours. Maybe less. Ruji's voice carried absolute certainty. By this time tomorrow, Sora will be in custody or dead. Either way, the threat ends. Aiko wanted to argue, to demand to go home, to return to her normal life. But looking at Ren's hopeful, exhausted face, she knew she couldn't abandon him now. Okay, she said. 24 hours. But then I want my life back. You'll have it, Ruji promised. With my eternal gratitude. The Nevada estate had a command center that looked like something from a spy movie. Wall-mounted screens showed satellite feeds, traffic cameras, and thermal imaging. Ruji stood at the center of it all, orchestrating his forces with the precision of a general planning a military strike. Aiko sat with Ren on a leather couch at the back of the room, watching events unfold. She'd asked to leave. This wasn't her world, wasn't her fight, but Ren had grabbed her hand and whispered, "Please stay," so she stayed. Target confirmed at the Century Plaza Hotel, penthouse suite. Tanaka's voice crackled through the speakers. He was Ruji's head of security, the gray-haired commander from the cabin. 22 floors. Multiple exits. Private elevator to underground parking. Security presence? Ruji asked, his voice cold and focused. Hotel has standard security. Sora has at least 8 personal guards visible, likely more hidden. He's expecting retaliation, but thinks he has time. He's wrong. Ruji studied the building schematics on the main screen. Team Alpha enters through the parking garage. Team Beta takes the service entrance. Team Gamma secures the lobby and elevator bank. Nobody in or out once we move. Understood? Yes, sir. Aiko watched Ruji work with reluctant fascination. This wasn't the desperate father or the grief-stricken brother. This was the crime lord, calculated, ruthless, commanding. She understood now how he'd built an empire across 2 continents. Father, Rin said quietly. What if Uncle Sora escapes? He won't. Ruji glanced back at his son, his expression softening just slightly. I've made mistakes, Rin. I've been too lenient, too trusting. But I won't make the mistake of underestimating Sora again. The screens flickered to helmet cam feeds as Ruji's teams moved into position. Aiko saw armed men in tactical gear flowing through underground parking, up stairwells, converging on the penthouse from 3 directions. Professional.
Silent. Deadly.
Remember, Ruji said into his headset. Sora is wanted alive if possible. He has information about our operations that I need to secure. But if he resists, if he threatens any of you, put him down. Yes, sir. The teams reached the penthouse floor simultaneously. On the screens, Aiko watched them stack up outside the suite's double doors. Tanaka gave a hand signal. Someone placed a breaching charge. Breach in 3,
2,
1 inch. The explosion was muted through the speakers, but the effect was immediate. The doors blew inward in a cloud of smoke and splinters. Ruji's men poured through, weapons raised, voices shouting commands in Japanese and English. Contact. 3 guards in the living room. Gunfire crackled. Aiko instinctively covered Ren's ears, but he pulled away, eyes fixed on the screens. I need to see, he whispered. I need to know it's really over. On screen, the helmet cams showed chaos. Sora's guards scrambling for weapons, being taken down with precise shots. One guard tried to run and was tackled. Another surrendered immediately, hands up. The living room was secured in under 30 seconds. Bedroom clear. Kitchen clear. Bathroom wait. I've got movement on the balcony. The camera swung to show a figure in an expensive suit climbing over the penthouse balcony railing.
Sora.
Even through the grainy footage, Aiko could see the family resemblance to Ruji, same build, same controlled movements. But where Ruji's face showed strength, Sora's showed desperation. He's going for the maintenance ladder. Tanaka's voice cut through. Team Charlie, intercept on floor 20. But Sora was already dropping down the exterior ladder with surprising agility. 22 floors up, and he was climbing down the outside of the building like it was his only chance at life. Because it was. I've got him in sight, a new voice said. The feed switched to a sniper positioned on a neighboring roof. Through the scope, Aiko could see Sora clearly now, hair whipping in the wind, face set with determination, descending rung by rung. Take the shot, Ruji commanded. Sir, if I hit him at this height. He murdered 3 of our men at the cabin. He tried to kill my son.
Take the
shot. A pause. Then, target acquired. Firing. Aiko looked away, but she heard Ren's sharp intake of breath. When she forced herself to look back at the screen, Sora was no longer on the ladder. The sniper had aimed for his shoulder, non-lethal, as ordered, but the impact and 22-story height made the wound irrelevant. Sora had fallen. The feed switched to street level. Aiko glimpsed a broken form on the pavement before someone mercifully cut the camera. Target neutralized, Tanaka reported, his voice carefully neutral. Teams are securing the suite now. We've recovered documents, hard drives, and 5 prisoners for interrogation. Ruji stood motionless, staring at the blank screen where his half-brother had been moments before. His expression was unreadable. Father? Ren's voice was small, uncertain. Ruji turned, and Aiko saw the weight of what he'd just done settling on his shoulders. He'd ordered his brother's death. Necessary, perhaps. Justified, maybe. But still a burden he'd carry forever. It's over, he said quietly, moving to kneel in front of Ren. You're safe now. Truly safe. Sora can't hurt you anymore.
Ren nodded slowly, processing.
Then, unexpectedly, he started crying, not from fear, but from relief. The terror that had kept him running for days finally released. Ruji held his son while he sobbed, and Aiko saw her opening to leave. This was a private moment, a father and son beginning to heal. But Ren reached out, grabbing her hand, pulling her into their embrace. Both of you, he whispered. You both saved me. 3 days later, Aiko stood in the Nevada estate's gardens, watching the sun set over the desert. The swelling in her face had gone down, and her ribs hurt less when she breathed. The doctors said she could travel. Time to go home. If she still had a home to go back to. Your apartment is exactly as you left it, Ruji's voice came from behind her. She'd learned to recognize his footsteps. Quiet, deliberate. I had my people ensure nothing was disturbed. Your mail has been collected, your plants watered. I took the liberty of paying your rent for the next year. You didn't have to do that. Miss Carter, compared to what I owe you, it's nothing. Ruji moved to stand beside her, hands in his pockets, looking almost human in casual slacks and a simple shirt. Your teaching position has also been secured. I made a generous donation to your school. They're quite pleased. Aiko turned to face him. I don't want your money, Mr. Kurigane. I know. Which is precisely why I'm giving it anyway. He studied her with those intense dark eyes. You're a rare person, Miss Carter. In my world, everyone wants something, power, wealth, protection. But you? You asked for nothing. Expected nothing. You simply did what was right because it was right. Any decent person would have.
No, Ryuhi interrupted gently.
They wouldn't. And we both know it. He pulled an envelope from his pocket. This contains a bank account number. $2 million. Enough to pay off your student loans, buy a house, secure your future. It's not payment. You can't be paid for saving a child's life.
Consider it.
Insurance. Should you ever need anything, ever face any trouble, you have resources. Aiko stared at the envelope. $2 million. It was absurd.
Impossible.
She should refuse. She took it. Thank you, she said quietly. But there's something else I want. Something more important than money. Name it. Let Ren be a kid. Not an heir, not a future crime lord. Just a kid. Aiko's voice grew fierce. He's 8 years old, and he's seen things no child should see. He's been hunted, terrified, traumatized. He needs therapy, normalcy, childhood.
Can you give him that?
Ruji was quiet for a long moment. The Kurigane Empire has been in my family for 3 generations. Ron is the heir. That's not a burden I can simply lift. Then share it. Hire other people to run your businesses.
Step back.
Be a father first and a crime lord second. Aiko surprised herself with her boldness. Or, do you want him to grow up like you did? Lonely? Suspicious? Always looking over his shoulder? Something flickered in Ruji's eyes. Pain, maybe, or recognition. You don't pull punches, do you? Not when a child's future is at stake. I'll consider what you've said. Ruji extended his hand. You have my word. And in my world, Miss Carter, a word is everything. Aiko shook his hand, feeling the strength in his grip and something else. Genuine respect. Aiko. Ren's voice called from the house. He ran toward them, the dragon pendant bouncing on his chest. The bandage was gone from his head now, and he looked healthier, happier. Still haunted around the eyes, but healing. He crashed into her with a hug that nearly knocked her over. You're leaving, he said, voice muffled against her shirt. Father told me. I have to go home, sweetheart. Back to my life, my students. Can I come visit? Aiko glanced at Ruji, who nodded almost imperceptibly. Of course you can. Anytime you want. Ren pulled back and with trembling fingers, lifted the dragon pendant over his head. I want you to have this.
Ren, no.
Your father gave you that. To keep me safe. And it did. Ren pressed it into her hands. It brought me to you. Now I want you to have it. So you'll be safe too. And so you'll remember me. Aiko's eyes blurred with tears. The pendant was heavy in her palm, warm from Ren's body heat. The dragon seemed to writhe in the dying sunlight, fierce and protective. I could never forget you, she whispered, fastening it around her neck. You changed my life, Ren. You saved mine. They held each other for a long moment while Ruji watched, something unreadable in his expression. Finally, Aiko stood. A car waited in the circular driveway, black Mercedes, driver in a suit. Nothing subtle about the Kurogane family. Miss Carter, Ruji said as she turned to leave. You'll always have the protection of the Kurogane family. Always. That pendant isn't just jewelry. It's a symbol. Anyone in our world who sees it will know you're under our protection. You'll never have to be afraid again. Aiko touched the dragon at her throat. I was never afraid. Not when it mattered. She climbed into the Mercedes and, through the tinted window, watched Ruji rest his hand on Ren's shoulder. Father and son, silhouetted against the desert sunset, beginning the long journey toward healing. The car pulled away, carrying Aiko back toward her quiet life of art classes and student sketches. But she was different now. She'd walked through fire and emerged stronger. She'd faced monsters and won. She'd saved a boy and maybe, just maybe, saved a father too. The dragon pendant rested against her heart, a reminder that sometimes the smallest choices, stopping to help a terrified child on a foggy street, could change everything. Behind her, the Nevada estate disappeared into the dusk. Ahead, San Francisco waited with all its fog and possibility. Aiko Carter, art teacher and unlikely hero, smiled and went home.